Dickinson City Council to order. Item 1, call to order and certification of quorum.
Councilmember Simpson,
Here.
Councilwoman Simpson,
Here.
Councilmember Townsend, Mayor Skipworth,
Here.
Councilmember Brantley,
Here.
Councilmember Linton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Move on to item 2, the invocation. Councilman Simpson, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Let us pray. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for every good and perfect gift that comes from above. We thank you for those who are here, those who are watching online, and those who are with us in spirit. We thank you for this city, this county, this state, and this great nation. We ask your blessing upon this meeting, allow it to be effective and efficient. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. First, the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. All right, item 4, proclamations and awards. We have none this evening, so we'll move on to item 5, announcements and presentations. Item 5, announcements concerning items of community interest. No action will be taken or discussed. Council member comments regarding items of community interest in accordance with Texas Government Code, Section 551.0415, Item 5A, council comments. We'll begin this evening with Councilman Simpson.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, city staff, citizens. Welcome. Don't have much by way of city council comments today, other than I look forward to the intern field trip tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Simpson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening and welcome everyone that's here and watching us online. We appreciate your participation and your feedback. I had the pleasure of participating in the annual July 4th Children's Parade hosted by the Pilot Club. Kiddos dressed up their bikes and their trikes, and we had a great time gathering to celebrate. Thank you to the Pilot Club for organizing this and to the VFW for hosting this community event. We're in the middle of hurricane season. This is your reminder to tune into the Dickinson Emergency Notifications Alert System. You can sign up for text alerts about weather and emergencies in City of Dickinson. Visit the Dickinson City website to register. Finally, it's time to start thinking about back to school. Dickinson ISD has some big changes coming this year with opening of a new junior high, pre-K at all elementary campuses, realignment of grade levels. There will be a back to school community fair on August 5th at Dickinson High School in collaboration with the DISD, City of Dickinson, MI Lewis, Communities in Schools, and Salty Cuts. Or register with MI Lewis for school supplies and register with Salty Cuts for free haircuts. Learn more at dickinsonisd.org/community fair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, Councilman Townsend.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
All right, and Councilman Brantley.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to everybody in attendance. Thank you for everybody attending online. I just have a few things. First thing I'd like to talk about or to recognize is Dickinson Little League. Dickinson Little League performed very well in the All-Star tournament this year. Dickinson Little League won the major division for District 14, which is all of Galveston County and South Houston, South Harris County. They advanced to the sectional tournament where they made it to the semifinal round, and they did an excellent job. Also would like to, from District 14, Texas City Little League, which won in the junior division, 13, 14-year-olds. They won the sectional tournament last night and are advancing to the state tournament. So they'll be playing in Tyler starting this Saturday. So they are 7 games away from playing in the Junior Little League World Series. So congratulations to them and good luck in the state tournament. This week I would like to, for staff recognition, I know we have our first draft of the 2024 budget this evening, and I think that he works very, very, very hard in the background, and he definitely does not get the recognition that he deserves. But this week, I would like to everybody give a big hand to Harrison Nicholson for the job that he does. He is invaluable to the city and does an excellent job as our finance director. So thank you, Harrison. Lastly, as part of my council comments, I've invited Lacey Pena to join us this evening and talk a little bit about something that is very dear to me and also very dear to her. Lacey is the owner of By the Bayou Nutrition here in Dickinson. She also has recently gotten very passionate and involved with Forever 15. And I've invited her to tell us a little bit more about her mission and Forever 15.
Hi, my name is Lacey Pena. So with Forever 15, we are trying to bring awareness of fentanyl. It has taken over a lot of counties. It's within our county, and we're just trying to prevent something from happening to our kids. January 3rd, I lost my 14-year-old daughter to fentanyl. I do have a 17-year-old daughter, so we are both still battling this every single day. I would like to speak out more so that it's more aware. We don't have anything here in this county for fentanyl or any awareness to help prevent it. I got permission from Hayes ISD and Hayes County to use some of their flyers so that we are able to make our own for our own district. October is now the Fentanyl Awareness Month. Governor Abbott signed some bills beginning of June to where October grades 6 through 12 need education regarding fentanyl. I've spoken to several of the principals, and they're going to allow me to speak to some of their students. And for open house, I will be there as well at the high school to give education to parents and students regarding the safety of it, just pretty much saying no. Just bringing the awareness. I have some plans for within the community. I've talked to some of the law enforcement and the fire marshal. We will have classes that will have the AED, CPR, and Narcan so that people in the community will be trained to provide those services. But it's just bringing the awareness. My daughter is now in a beautiful butterfly, and this is how I get to see her. This is how I touch her. This is how I talk to her. So I would love to be the only mother in this county going through this. I don't want a team. So I would rather talk and be out on the streets to prevent someone else from going through what I'm going through. So I'm just asking for support when it comes to that.
Thanks,
you.
Lacey.
Thank you.
Lacey, Renee and I, my wife, met Lacey right after she opened By the Bayou Nutrition, and Lacey gives a lot back to the community. I know that she has come out and volunteered with us at the Little League. Part of the reason why I serve at the Little League like I choose to serve is because I lost a little brother in 2003 who was murdered through a drug situation. I lost another brother in 2020 to alcohol abuse. And so I can definitely empathize with the things that Lacey has gone through. And I fully support her in her mission, and will provide you any assistance that you need whatsoever. So thank you for coming up and having the courage to speak to us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Councilman Linton.
Good evening, everybody. Just had a few things on Saturday, July 1st. I was traveling west on FM 517. I was hoping I was never going to have to mention the railroad tracks ever again. But they did come and finish it. It's just when they were doing the asphalt, they failed to notify anybody they were shutting down 517 West. So hopefully we never have to repair those railroad tracks again. But if we do, it'd be great to know that they're shutting it down before they do their work. And I had mentioned that to the city manager as well. So anyway, also on July 4th, I did a Stop the Pop ride along with Fire Marshal Shauna Bello, Deputy Fire Marshal Amber Phillips, Public Works Director Alexis Santiago, and Code Enforcement Officer Michael Phillips, who just joined the team recently. It was very interesting. I've never been out in a enforcement type situation. I'm about as familiar with that as I am Mars. So I learned a lot. They conducted themselves very professionally. I'm sure you can understand that not only do they, but our first responders have to deal with people that are less than courteous sometimes. And I got to experience some of that. But anyway, for the most part, the majority of the people were very polite, understanding, understood that they were there to do their job, which was to enforce the law. And also this year, compared to last year, seemed to be a bit better, fewer violators. But it was a very educational experience. And I got to see fireworks, even though I wasn't supposed to be seeing fireworks. On July 6th, I know they have changed the timing on the traffic signal at FM 517 at I-45. I also mentioned that to the city manager. It looks like we've gotten in touch with TxDOT senior engineer and of the Houston region. And so they're supposed to be looking at it, I believe. And of course, I documented the elapsed time for the green and the red light in case anybody's interested. July 8th, which is just for the record, 19 seconds green, 2 minutes and 6 seconds red. On July 8th, I went up to the Bayou Animal Services for a meet and greet. Just wanted to remind everybody, I'm looking for another dog. I will be adopting another dog here in the next few weeks. And I have a dog already at home, and they allow you to bring, if you have an animal at home and you're worried whether or not it's going to get along with your future pet, you can bring them up there and, have them meet some of the dogs or cats that they recommend that match your dog's personality. I believe that is it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 5B, the city manager update. I think we have a presentation to do at the start.
Yes. If first we'd like to start off with Keep Dickinson Beautiful. They have an announcement and presentation to make. Miss Julie Masters, are you available for us? Oh, come on up. Of course.
I would assist, but I'm not in operations.
Third Generation Family Volunteers and has played a key role in revitalizing the city through its ambitious outreach and organizing efforts. The result is a community that is deep. With a population of 21,000 and nestled in between Houston and Galveston, Dickinson enjoys small town charm with big city access. Keep Dickinson Beautiful boasts of third generation family volunteers and has played a key role in revitalizing the city through its ambitious outreach and organizing efforts. The result is a community that is deeply involved in the city's beautification and cleanup efforts. Community members have come together to plant trees and native plants at various locations in the city, including the historic railroad depot, a highly visited tourist attraction where new landscaping has infused pride in the community while underscoring Dickinson's commitment to beautification. Local artists have also lent their talents, including the installation of a new mural that highlights the essence of Dickinson, and through the Great Blue Heron Project, a Dickinson Art Guild program in which local artists painted heron statues throughout the business district and along the bayou, adding pops of
Put it on the website.
So what this video, that you didn't get to entirely see, was shown before hundreds of people at the Keep Texas Beautiful convention in June. We are one of 10 winners of the Governor's Community Achievement Award. And what that allows us is $180,000 to be used for a landscape project on TxDOT right-of-way. We Let me just tell you a little bit about the GCAA. It is based on community leadership and coordination, public awareness and outreach, environmental education and youth engagement, beautification and community improvement, litter prevention and cleanup, solid waste management, litter law, and illegal dumping enforcement. It's $2 million dedicated annually by TxDOT for this award and is divided between 10 population categories, the amount based on size. So I think it starts at like 60,000 and goes up to 310,000 for the larger cities. KDB has won this award 8 times in 93, 96, 2003, 07, 11, 15, 19, and 23. 93 and 96 were $60,000 each, and they were combined to construct the 10 crepe myrtle planter boxes along our BIOS crossings on Highway 3 and 517. And the 11th box is on Highway 3 North. It has Dickinson etched on each side, 2 sides. In 2003, the award was used for the large Dickinson entryway sign fronting CVS, in addition to the landscaping of that right-of-way and the right-of-way fronting the Shell station. And a surprising addition to the project was getting the slopes on I-45 landscaped as well. However, the sign, the tree slopes, and the previous landscaping have all been removed due to the I-45 widening. This area will be a strong consideration for our next GCAA project. Our 2007 award was used to landscape the new City Hall WCID Library Complex, as timing was perfect as the completion of the complex, and its perimeters were Highway 3 and 517, which is a requirement. But fortunately, they included landscaping on the interior, around the flagpoles, the parking islands, and the building as well. In 2011, the project was the Dickinson entryway sign on the east side of Gum Bayou, which was agreed to by Mayor Doyle because that is actually in the city limits of Texas City. And we also treed along Highway 3 and 517. So we have our 215, 219, and 223 awards, which is totals over just over $500,000. So I visited with the TxDOT landscape architect at the Keep Texas Beautiful convention in June, and he suggested meeting with me in late August, early September to discuss our project ideas. So I want to sit down with the city manager and see what the city's thoughts are on how we want to proceed with these projects. So I'm excited about that. We know the intersection is going to need a little help. I just don't know how much area we have to work with since the widening. So we're here. Got Chad Anderson waving. He's on our board. Kenneth Nurse is actually in the Optimist Club with me. He's our president, but he also steps in when his wife, who's on our board, can't make it. So thank you. Everybody else is out of town. But we are small, but we're mighty. So we're here to extend our deepest appreciation to you, council and city management, for supporting our organization, as we certainly could not do what we do without your support and partnership. And kudos to all of you for the park plan. So excited about that. It looks beautiful. And Keep Dickinson Beautiful wants to do whatever we can do to get those goals and objectives met in that plan. It's very exciting. And a big shout out to Alexis and his crew at Public Works for stepping in to help with Trash Bash. And whenever I come begging for his assistance with litter and debris disposal that is collected by our Adopt a Street partners. So now, if you can get the plaque, y'all come up. We'd like to present you with the 2023 Governor's Community Achievement Award plaque, as it was earned by those whom you represent. That is our amazing volunteers that we have in this city. It's the youth that get involved that we hope will be the continuity in keeping Dickinson clean and beautiful. So if I can ask all of you all to come up and we could get a picture with this plaque, I'd appreciate it. And thank you again for your support. And I hope to see you in some of our projects when we work. I know Jenna's been with us for several years. Mark's helped out with Trash Bash, and John, I've seen several of y'all at some of our events. So it's good to see y'all. And we welcome all the volunteers in the back of me to join us anytime on any of our projects. So y'all get on up here.
quick thing.
Let's do it in front of, over here, maybe. Where's the mayor?
And we're doing- Okay. Hold it. Yeah, hold it up. All right, okay. I'm gonna keep. There you go. We can
Everybody in?
that's right.
Turn sideways. Everybody turn sideways a little bit. You can get close. There you go. Yeah. Thank y'all. So it goes in that cabinet
Okay.
eventually.
Somebody,
Thank you, Ms. Julie.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all very much. And I think it's such a wonderful thing what Keep Dickinson Beautiful is doing. Been great to be able to support the organization through staff support and so forth. We have a few other projects that we're working on that we may be looking at. I know that we have one for a Tree City that we'll be working on in the very near future. So, Julie might be up here presenting something else pretty soon. So looking
Will
forward
you
to that.
finish the rest of the video? Looks
Oh
like
yeah,
it's
let's
loaded.
try. Let's go ahead and, oh, it's up. Okay, let's do it. Didn't know if it had buffered.
The Great Blue Heron Project, a Dickinson Art Guild program in which local artists painted heron statues throughout the business district and along the bayou, adding pops of color and joy to the city landscape. And through its anti-littering programs and event planning, Dickinson has worked hard to maintain its historic cemeteries and green spaces, including its cherished bayous. Boaters and kayakers have helped keep these waterways clean and inviting for ecotourism, recreation, and for the diverse wildlife who call it home. Congratulations to Dickinson for all you do to keep Dickinson beautiful.
Very wonderful. Absolutely. I really appreciate the hard work by everybody, the volunteers, kind of going along with the value adding to the community and so forth. One of the things that you have sitting before you this evening is the presentation of a proposed budget to council. This is the preliminary budget. There's still a whole lot of work to do in said budget. We have a ton of work to do in it. I did want to go over a couple of highlights for council. Couple of areas of interest for you is as part of as we're looking at how do we become more competitive in a job market. One of the big things that differentiates us as an employer is that we are not a member in the Social Security system. So a lot of people, especially if we're looking for mid-career people or senior leadership, if they haven't accrued 30 full years of Social Security, they're at risk of having a very serious windfall exemption on their Social Security earnings if they don't get to those 30 years or 120 quarters. We have actually had an opportunity to speak with several staff. Right now, the response rate's been very positive of wanting to be enrolled into, be opting into Social Security. The plan that we've been kind of looking at would be the plan that if you don't want to opt in, you don't have to opt in. This is for people who want to opt in and all future employees. What we did was we put kind of a general cost estimate split between the general fund as well as for our street people as well. That cost will be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $300,000 across the two funds on an annual basis. That's in this budget. It would not come into effect until January 1 of 25. So it actually wouldn't be in this budget, but I wanted to show you guys that is going to be your fiscal impact if we do decide to move forward with adding that as a benefit of employment. Also understand that there's a employee portion that they have to put in their 6.2% for the city to put in their 6.2%. So, the fact that we're getting opt-ins, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 to 80% of employees saying they would opt into the system is pretty. It's a much larger percentage than initially expected to opt in. So that's one. Another area I wanted to bring up also is that this includes us funding for 3 patrol vehicles as well as 2 vehicles for public works to replace some vehicles that the PD had decommissioned years ago and had sent over to public works, but they're way past their useful life at this point. So this would be replacing a couple of those public works vehicles as well. Another area that I was wanting to also bring up is that this year is the first year in the city's history, at least in this preliminary budget, that if the city moves forward with, if the city moves forward with moving animal services into a department of the city and not as Bayou Animal Services separately, this is actually would be the first budget that actually shows as a whole the city's fiscal impact with that as well. So those are kind of some major highlights that I wanted to put in there. It also puts in in the street fund a $200,000 project to finalize the drainage in Cheyenne subdivision. It's kind of the last portion of it. We've done all but one piece of it that needs to go into the next fiscal year. So we have that budgeted in for that, as well as we have about $350,000 set aside for street repairs and overlay as well. Another area is we are also looking at trying to fund a COLA. We're having some major recruitment issues, especially in our first responders. City Council worked very hard. We have a CBA that did do a substantial increase of 12% last year, or the current fiscal year we're in, a 4% increase and a 4% increase after that over a 3-year period. That's kind of trying to get us back up to where we need to be to kind of be marketable in comparison to other police departments. But we also are looking at a COLA increase as well. And so having worked with Chief Berezin, what we want to do is that we currently have about 5 positions open, and they'll be in patrol. We are going to take 2 of those positions, take them out of the budget for the short term so we can then turn around and actually use that toward helping fund a COLA so that they can go out and recruit for the other 3 positions to get that filled ASAP. And then we will come back either in the mid-year or the following year and then replace those 2 positions. It's the same strategy we're going to be taking with the paramedics as well. We've been sitting on 4 positions full-time. We filled 1 of them, and we have no one even in the pipeline. So we're going to hope that this, maybe a good COLA, and now we've got these new revamped, benefits, and then come with a stronger recruitment strategy, both from EMS and PD. That this next year we can actually come in and refund those positions with that higher COLA salary, and hope that we can actually fill those positions rather than just holding vacancies on the budget. So those are kind of some of the big ones. Another thing I want you to keep in mind is that the revenue side, the ad valorem taxes, the certified rolls are not in. What we are basing ours on is based on the preliminary values. So that means that all of the properties that are still under protest have not been the values have not been reset to the new values yet. They're kind of frozen right now. So that number will change a little bit as well. It's going to be the ad valorem property taxes will be changing. It could be up or down depending on how the protests go. So, and that's also assuming the current tax rate, which, until we get the in August, when we get everything from the county assessor, we don't know what the no new revenue and voter approved rates are yet. So we just kind of stayed with what it is today to kind of give us a baseline budget to work with. So those are some basic assumptions. This is my charter required presentation of a budget. And obviously I don't expect you guys to have just gotten this 5 minutes ago and have a bunch of questions yet, but we'll have public opportunities as well as obviously opportunities to sit in the office and work through with Harrison and myself on priorities.
All right. So I would say, please give it a look over. Keep in mind two things. One, once we get in the ad valorem from the county, I'm sure that we'll have probably a revision because that'll change things. And at some point, now that Social Security part, we'll take out of there for the moment because we're not actually paying that.
Yeah, correct.
So look over that stuff and ask your questions. And like you said, we approved that calendar at the last meeting for the budget, so we'll have those things moving forward. All right.
And our goal, just so everyone knows, is our goal is on August 8th for us to, which would be our first regular meeting of the month in August, will be when we're going to be taking the calculations from the county and basically approving both the no new revenue and voter approved that we agree with the county that these are the rates. And then from there, we will start working budget and deciding on a tax rate at a later date. But the first thing is to agree that these are the two rate settings from the county.
All right. Do you have anything else as part of your update? No.
It's enough.
Okay, that's enough. All right. Item 6, public comments. Members of the public are invited to give comments at this time, lasting not longer than 3 minutes. Comments may be general in nature or may address a specific agenda item and should be directed at the entire council and not individual members of council or staff. Any speaker making personal attacks or using vulgar or profane language shall forfeit his or her remaining time and shall be seated. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city council may not deliberate. We do have 2 comments, but they are signed up for a particular agenda item. So we will get to that once we get there. Item 7, the consent agenda. The following items are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed after the consent agenda. We need to remove item 7B from the consent agenda. That one at the request of the city manager, that is not ready to be presented today. And there's been a request to remove item C as well. All right. So, is there a motion to approve item 7A?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Simpson, a second by Councilman Linton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7C, consideration and possible action concerning adopting the Dickinson, Texas Parks, Trails, and Recreation Master Plan, the second and final reading.
Move to approve.
There's a motion approved by Councilman Simpson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Brantley. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 8, public hearings and action items from public hearings. Item 8A, conduct a public hearing concerning a request to amend the official zoning map from conventional residential zoning district to manufactured home zoning district for the approximate plus or minus 1.78 acres located at 4401 East 36th Street, 4403 East 36th Street, 4405 East 36th Street, 4407 East 36th Street, 4409 East 36th Street, 4411 East 36th Street, 4402 East 35th Street, 4404 East 35th Street, 4406 East 35th Street, say that 3 times fast, and 4408 East 35th Street, 4410 East 35th Street, legally described as Reserve 2, Menotti Special Subdivision Number 2. We will, we will convene this public hearing at 7:34 p.m. and we'll begin with the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This property is located between 35th and 36th, east of Kansas. It's approximately 1/2 of the block. And what is being requested is a rezoning from conventional residential to manufactured home. And that is what staff has.
All right, thank you. Do we have any applicant presentation? We do? All right. If you please come up and give your name and your address, sir.
Patrick Restivo, 9806 Sage Aspen Lane, Houston, Texas. I'm simply requesting that y'all correct a error, the best way I can explain it, that happened when zoning was first adopted. Somehow or another, this particular piece of the property that was part of a manufactured home community since the 70s, still is and will be as long as I'm alive and most likely my grandkids. And even if it's sold, it will be a manufactured home community as well, part of it. As you see, I own all that particular property there, and it is part of my community. So I'm simply asking to have it zoned to what it truly is. It's been in my family more or less for 130 years, and it's going to continue to stay in my family because my grandkids are inheriting it, and they will continue with the business. So I don't know what I can say or how I can convince you to simply do the right thing and call it what it is. It's not going to make a difference one way or another because it's always going to be a manufactured home community. As long as the business is worth more than the land, no houses are ever going to be built there. I could simply sell the business to a multi-million-dollar corporation such as BlackRock or whatever, because that's who's moving into the industry. I'm a dinosaur. And the people that are moving into this industry today are your hedge funds. And they're not going to let it go. Take a look at California Street. You've got those guys over there building up the lots, 6 to 8 feet high to get over the flooding issue. Those guys got more money than God. They will continue to let it be and continue for it to be a manufactured home community. So why not call it what it is instead of residential, which it should have never been, because at the beginning of the zoning, somehow or another, it did not get considered to be manufactured home when all the rest of the Roy's property that was manufactured home did become manufactured home. I'm not asking y'all to do anything different than what y'all did for the Pate property that Jack had bought not too long ago. I think last December y'all did that. So please, I'm asking you just to call me what I am, manufactured home community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We have no public comments on this item, and there is no need for applicant rebuttal. So we will adjourn the public hearing at 7:38 p.m. and move on to item 8B. Consideration and possible action concerning a request to amend the official zoning map from conventional residential zoning district and manufactured home zoning district for the approximately ±1.78 acres located at 4401 East 36th Street, 4403 East 36th Street, 4405 East 36th Street, 4407 East 36th Street, 4409 East 36th Street, 4411 East 36th Street, 4402 East 35th Street, 4404 East 35th Street, 4406 East 35th Street, 4408 East 35th Street, 4410 East 35th Street, legally described as Reserve 2, Menotti Special Subdivision Number 2.
Also move.
Is a motion approved by Councilman Townsend? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Brantley. Is there any discussion?
If I can have some, just allow us a little bit, can you, so we can understand a little bit about, so I guess I think I'm sure the council would like to know what's the impact, what's the difference in the zoning in this situation, and also kind of where staff and planning and zoning have landed on, I guess, prior meetings.
Yes. So the criteria that the Council and Planning and Zoning Commission review, staff feels that 4 of those are not met. And so staff is recommending denial. Planning and Zoning Commission did also recommend denial. That was by a unanimous vote. The biggest things where I would say that they don't meet is the comprehensive plan and then even the current zoning. So they're currently non-conforming, zoned conventional residential. By changing their zoning to manufactured housing, they're still going to be not conforming because they do not meet the manufactured house zoning code.
How so?
So there's actually a number of things that they do not meet when you look at that zoning code. Just a second. So when you look at those development standards, they talk about in manufactured housing, each dwelling has to have a garage or some outdoor space. There are screening requirements and fencing requirements, recreation areas. And so they don't meet any of these things because they existed before the zoning code did. So under the non-conforming, they can continue to exist. The way that the non-conforming section of the manufactured housing is written is as long as it's continued to be used as a residence and connected to utilities, they can replace within 90 days. So if they can replace homes and move new ones in, But once one's removed for more than 90 days and not connected to utilities, then they would not be able to replace it.
But would changing it to manufactured home fix that problem?
No, it would not.
So the zoning change actually doesn't fix the issue we're
Right.
dealing with.
So they're non-conforming conventional residential. And by changing the zoning, they would be non-conforming manufactured home because they don't meet the recreation areas, the screening requirements, the garage/shed. They don't meet the manufactured home zoning requirements.
Would there, I guess, would there be, how does grandfathering work in this situation?
That is where they're allowed to continue existing
Okay,
as they
gotcha.
are. If it gets disconnected from utilities for more than 90 days, then they lose that grandfathering for the manufactured home. And that's per home.
What would be the mechanism for, I guess, if the council, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to flesh out a couple of things. If rezoning this manufactured home zoning district doesn't actually fix the problem of the 90-day disconnect, what would be a mechanism that Mr. Restivo can use to remedy this? What would he need to ask of the council?
In addition to zoning it as manufactured home, it would be improving the property to where it does meet these requirements.
Mhm. Any other mechanism that exists? I'm just trying to flesh out.
No, I mean, it's really just improving it to the point where it would meet the zoning code.
Variance? Does a variance work in this?
There's no variance to use.
I don't think any, I don't think any of the mobile home parks in Dickinson has the cover deal that she's talking about. When Mr. Minotti owned it and lived in the house, there was a swimming pool that the people could swim in. Now, I don't know who owns the house since Mr. Minotti passed away, and maybe Mrs. Minotti, they may have sold the house. But at one time, that park, the people that lived there could swim in Mr. Minotti's park, in the pool that was behind it. But I don't think any of your mobile home parks have the covered parking and all that you're asking for in this. Unfortunately, years ago when all this was built, Restivo's not the only one, because he's been fighting this for 20 years or more. All them parks over there, they have taken what would have been other time individual houses, and they've made mobile home parks on them. Alfred's done it over there on 36th, 35th Street and all that. You've got it all along California back there. None of those have the covered parking or anything else. It's been a mobile home park as long as I remember, because I was raised over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so
All it's doing is protecting his investment in what he's got.
that's what I was trying to understand. So I can be clear to help the council. Rezoning it today to manufactured home does not fix the issue. So there's one of two things. One is either building up to standard of it, or the city looking at rewriting a portion of the ordinance for grandfathered mobile manufactured homes to be able to exist in the district without this 90-day situation.
So currently in the non-conforming section of the code, there's two sections. There's one that's on parks, and then there's one on each individual home.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, both actually apply. On each home, it's got the 90-day, but then parks, they say that they can just still operate.
Mr. Restivo, oh, go ahead.
Can I make a comment? I was actually going to say, I don't know how everyone else is feeling about this, but it feels like maybe there'd be some use. Maybe he spoke to staff a little more about this, because I'm not.
Well, what's sitting before us, that's why I'm trying to flesh out if we
Yeah.
can even fix the problem with the agenda item sitting in front of us. That's the problem.
Right.
Is there an opportunity? Mr. Restivo, did you want to speak on
Did
something
you?
real quick? He actually
Yeah,
rose his
come
hand
on
real
up
quick.
if you have something you want to add.
Well, first of all, Yvonne and I have had a difference of opinion on this 90 days. I've tried to explain to her the city's not in compliance with the state. The state gives an individual, doesn't matter if they're a mobile home community or an individual, 1 year to replace their homes. If the city insists on following through with this 90 days, then the city's going to be dealing with the state over that. And I don't think y'all really want to deal with that. So you're talking about rewriting the ordinances, that's one of the things you need to correct in y'all's ordinances. Also, just recently, the state passed SB 929, the grandfathering issue. And again, I
929?
think I explained this to you as well. I don't remember. And also the one that I'm sure all of y'all have heard, HB 2127, the commonly referred to Death Star, that will be taking most of the zoning away from the city. Again, it's not me, it's the state. And it would be more advantageous for the city to sit down and actually look at this zoning and rewrite it to where it would comply more to what the state is going to be moving to. Because September the 1st, these ordinances with the state go into effect. And again, like I said, I'm not going to be around long enough to disagree with you. It's going to be those guys like Berkshire Hathaway. These guys, I don't think any city really wants to go up against those people. And they're not really going to go after the city as much as they're going to be going to the state and the feds. They're already there trying to get this as a big swath versus individual little towns, municipalities. I would be more than happy to sit down with Yvonne, a coalition of members of this from the city, to go over the ordinances, because I sat on the original board to write the ordinances and to try to correct a lot of these errors that somehow or another did not get, like I said, these properties did not get designated as manufactured housing, which they have been for years.
Yes, sir. Let me ask Yvonne a question, because we may be able to get a solution. I've just been trying to think a little bit. Yvonne, in this scenario, if the council went ahead and approved the zoning, knowing that it's still out of compliance, at least by our ordinances, out of compliance, would that at least be one step closer so that if we do need to clean up some things, then we're changing the ordinance and he's already got his zoning changed? Is there a reason that we need to keep it in conventional residential? Because if everything around it is mobile home, I guess I'm just trying to understand, is there a reason that this property itself needs to stay conventional residential?
So when I wrote this initial staff report, I did write it on our previous comprehensive plan. The newly adopted comprehensive plan, which happened after this application was submitted, not only says that we don't want manufactured housing in this area, but it actually says we want to reduce it in this area. If we were going to zone it and have it come more into compliance, then staff would be more likely to recommend approval on something. But to have it exist as it is, non-conforming, no changes to ever become conforming, that's not what staff would want.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question is that if it were, I guess, let me put it this way, it's a manufactured home today, obviously it probably, in the year 2000, when that zoning overlay occurred, it was probably meant to be, I would assume it would have gone under manufactured home. This is probably an error, I guess, is my question. Like, was this done like intentionally to be conventional residential, or was this probably, like we've dealt with some of the others, an error?
I can't say that it was done intentionally, because when you look at this whole area, it's a hodgepodge. Some of it's conventional single family residential, some of it's manufactured house. It's half of this block isn't manufactured housing, half of it is, half of it's not. And so when they zoned it initially, when you drive by, it just looks like a regular single family subdivision, just there's manufactured houses on these particular lots.
And manufactured home, is that for parks or for manufactured homes in total?
In total. So our zoning code doesn't say one way or the other.
Okay. That this is just from distilling some information, council, and y'all take this where you want to. What my recommendation would be to, just on my end, and this is kind of a split the baby approach a little bit, to be honest, would be to approve the zoning change and then let us work through the ordinances, like, so that we can figure it out. because if this has been existing, there's a whole bunch of grandfathering things from the 70s. And I know that we had an overlay. We've had a lot of errors. I mean, we dealt with, we have the Ziegler's property is a perfect example. We are working through them. That's just me. We can work it either way, whichever way council wants to go, but it might be easier for us to rezone it and then let us work through the ordinances, working with our city attorney, which by the way, this is not Justin Pruitt, by the way, this is Tommy, council Tommy. Justin had an emergency meeting to go to. And so Tommy's filling in and he's doing such a great job. Congratulations. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
That's kind of what I was thinking personally, Theo, was maybe to take that approach, but I don't know if anyone else has any questions. Mark?
On your lots, are they 25-foot lots? Because some of those lots over there are actually 25 by 120-foot lots. I was raised
These 11 parcel pieces is one reserve.
one reserve because where I was raised, it was 3 25-foot lots, even though it's a 75-foot lot by 120-foot deep, whatever it was, 105. It was 3 individual 25-foot lots over there. That's why I asked that question, because I know Julie's was mayor and that conversation's come up before on the lot size.
Mark, originally Roy had all of that replatted. Even the easement behind the property is been platted out. There's no more easement back there. So all of that is one giant piece of property. Although when I purchased it back from Mrs. Minotti, I went to the tax authority, the appraisal district, and I had them work it out where they taxed me on the 50-foot lots. I combined the original 25-foot lots because everything over there is 25.
But they were actually 25-foot lots and you've had them
Nicholstone.
changed to 50-foot lots.
Yeah, for taxing purposes only.
Right.
But it is one giant piece of property.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But at one time,
At one
those
time,
were
back in
platted
the
at
day,
25-foot lots at
Nicholstone,
Nicholstone.
everything was 25-foot
Right.
lots. 120 by 100 by 25.
Right.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions or comments on this item?
Yeah,
Brantley?
I guess my first question would be, is without a zoning change, is there any imminent injury to Mr. Restivo? He can continue to operate until we have a solution, correct?
That's correct. So the only time there becomes is in our zoning code. It says connected to utilities for 90 days. So if one gets disconnected for more than 90 days, then the city would say you can't replace it under the current zoning code.
But do y'all want to
But-
go through that with the state?
Okay, so my question would be, is there potential that we could find a resolution within 90 days?
Oh, I mean, well, there's no one with an imminent disconnection as far as I know, unless
Yeah,
there is.
there
Oh, there is one. Okay, so there is a time clock. Well, it's kind of dependent on we have to go into the code itself because there's 2 ways to fix I honestly think that the fix this is going to be a 2-step process no matter what we're going to do, because number one, he's going to have to be rezoned, and let's say we're trying to work on this to get past this whole disconnection issue to be able to allow him to operate as is. There's got to be 2 things happen. One is he's got to be rezoned to manufactured housing anyway, and the ordinance has to change. So us rezoning him like now or in the future, the non-conformance exists either way. There's going to have to be an ordinance change. Once we've changed the ordinance, now we'll have time to work on give us I'm sure Justin can get something in about 15 to 20 days to us, and then we can get a couple of readings in if we're trying to go that route.
Well, and the only reason I asked that question is because of the comprehensive plan, and this is no reflection, Mr. Restivo, I know we spent some time together and I have a tremendous amount of respect. So this is not a reflection of you, but we did just spend a tremendous amount of money and public comment on developing a comprehensive plan, and voting for approval of the zoning change is contrary to that comprehensive plan. So I would feel much more comfortable voting in favor of a zoning change or a solution when we had that solution versus going contrary to our comprehensive plan with this vote without a foreseeable, workable solution. Does that make sense?
The way I foresee an ordinance, and this would have to be Yvonne and attorney to hammer that out. But if the idea is to allow it to maintain where they don't have that non-conform. Well, the thing is that, you know, a couple of things. One is, do you leave it as it's currently zoned in non-conformance, and we change the ordinance to be like, say, a year, something that is, you know, much more, you know, amenable to turnover. Then after that 1 year, the grandfathering goes away. That keeps you in line with the comprehensive plan. That doesn't necessarily fix the you know, us passing a comprehensive plan doesn't change the properties right next door that are already zoned manufactured homes too. So I mean, there's some gray area there. So it's going to be something that we anticipated that was going to be an issue as we're overlaying and looking at future land use. So I guess what I would say is that we, no matter what we do today, I think the bottom line is that do we want to release grandfathering, meaning like, do we want to zone it in such a way that whether they connect in a year or 3 years or, you know, 90 days, depending on if I'll have to work with the attorney to talk to see if that's legal or not. But whatever the time period is, there's a certain amount of time, which means you would not change the zoning. But if you want to just kind of allow it to be permanently allowed to be manufactured home, then you would change this to manufactured housing and work through an ordinance. That would be the two ways to do it.
Yeah, it seems to me like with this current agenda item, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? But if I'm hearing staff correctly, we can vote to make a zoning change and take it out of non-conformance, but the change to zone it mobile home is still non-conforming. So you're voting to take it out of non-conforming into a zoning that is still non-conforming. Is that
Yes,
correct?
That's what I was saying, is that's why it has to be a two-step process. Either if you are trying to work to allow it to not have that 1 year or 90 day, which, you know, that'll be in dispute. We'll figure that out. Whatever the time period is of grandfathering before it's lifted, you're deciding whether or not you want to keep the grandfathering in, and that would be conventional residential. If you don't want to have to worry about the grandfathering, and if it's disconnected for 3 years, 5 years, and a mobile home connects up again, and they're allowed to do it, then you would make the change on the ordinance or change on the zoning.
I think, if I may, on part of your hookup stuff, just look at what happened when Harvey came in, how long it took people to get their houses done. If you have a storm come in, tornado hits over there, there's no way you're going to get that trailer out of there and another one in there in 90 days. Insurance ain't going to pay off that quick. This is a headache that's been going on back long before the comprehensive plan and all that. This is not the first time Mr. Restivo's been up here before council over the mobile home parks out there. I tell it like it is, Mr. Steve, I ain't gonna lie. Me and you've been through this before. The only way to fix the problem, to meet what a comprehensive plan, which is what sounds like staff is going by, is you would bulldoze the whole thing and sell it and build it individual houses. That's not going to happen. So you might as well protect the guy and his investment, what little bit you can. It doesn't taste good, but that's the only taste you get tonight.
I mean, I feel like it's prudent to go ahead and take the first step and then do the zone change and then let them come back and give us the ordinance. And so especially if there's a pending disconnection issue. I mean, I don't want to
Also concerning the property.
Excuse me, I would like to say, the one that this disconnect issue, your 90-day, it's going to come to head here in the next week.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
What's the clock on that? Did the 90 days start 90 days ago or yesterday?
This one particular unit I have, it's been out of, according to y'all zoning compliance for quite a while, it'll be a year in August. Okay. Now,
Well, that's more than 90 days, but
I
yeah.
realize that, but I'm going by what the state says, and the state takes precedence over the city. So the question is, do you want to work with me on it, or do you want to fight the state over it? And then at that point, I've got to get involved as well.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's a win solution for anybody to go at it with that direction.
Mhm.
It needs to be addressed to let this home go in when the permit's been in the process of being pulled right now.
Mhm.
Let that home go in, and let's work out all these details as we can get this done properly and get all these homes. like I've said, I have told, I've tried to explain this to Yvonne, a couple of months back, at least when I first approached y'all about this zoning issue with the 90 days. I can't do any more than that, except for now, at this point, I'm finally in front of y'all, explaining it to y'all and do that. And you were talking about the grandfathering. The SB 929 addresses the grandfathering issue. I'm sure you've already read it.
Mhm.
Okay. And you know that's going to be an issue too with the state, with you guys.
Well, we have our attorneys kind of looking over what
I
the
know.
legislature is dealing
But the
with.
question is, does Dickinson want to be the test case?
I don't think we're going to have to be. Somebody else is going to be. But
So-
I mean, I think the point is going to take the courts a while and the
Yeah.
AG to sort all that, what all that means. But Councilman Brantley.
So the issue you're talking about would be in a week. And does that trigger the 90 days?
That triggers y'all's 90 days, but it's not going to trigger the state's 1 year. And
When you said you've already pulled the permits. When do you intend to replace the home?
as soon as they can deliver it. As soon as the
And what would
permit's
what would that time frame be?
I can't give you an answer at that. I'll have to get with Clayton Homes. They're putting the home in there. So we can beat the clock for the year for the state. And they're going to use it as a display home to be able to sell to other units. I've got 3 empty lots right now, and only one of them will be of non-conforming. The other one will be conforming. So, but that's just got empty. So that's not really going to be a real big issue at this point. But again, do we address this, try to come to a quick solution on this particular issue now and try to work out the solution long-term, which I think would be best for everybody. I realize it's a no-win situation almost at this point, but it's got to be addressed some kind of way or another, or it's going to wind up being a big mess for the city, which I don't want to see. Mark knows my heart's here. It's been here my whole life.
Well, and certainly, and let me be very clear. I understand this is how you make your living, and I don't want to, I don't want to keep you from being able to make your living, right?
I appreciate that.
I also don't want to kick the can down the road, right?
I don't
So,
either. I'd like for an
have-
answer today, but I know it's not going to happen.
and listening to Mr. or Councilman Townsend and you talk, it sounds like this isn't the first time that you've had to deal with this, correct?
Not this particular issue, other issues throughout since the zone, well, actually, since the city annexed us over there with John Mitchell.
Yes.
Annexes. We were all very happy being couch potatoes. Then we had to get involved. And we've been able to work out a solution or a compromise all through the years. Me and Julie did it a couple of times, and me and John did, and the city managers. I've worked with everybody in the city for all these years, and they'll tell you, if any of you, most of you guys I don't know. I've met a few of you. I've worked with you a little bit. I've worked with you a little bit, but you two I don't know, never met. Sorry, I haven't met you, but and Theo, I don't think you and I
No,
have
not yet.
sat down across from each
Oh,
other.
sure.
But I have worked with the city. I have committed property to the city in the past, and I've always tried my best to help the city every way I can. And all I want to do is make things work. It doesn't do anybody any good when you're in business to fight. Everybody loses. Nobody loses.
I guess my last question would be, is approving this ordinance the best way to protect Mr. Restivo's income?
I think probably like if it's the desire of the council. So like I said, if the council as a whole or majority wants to set this up to where, because what I can do is at least administratively is to hold off on red tagging anything while we're trying to work through an ordinance, so that if this goes 98 days or 120 days, and you can get the house in while we're trying to get some things in order. Like I said, we can do that. That's administratively I can work through that. where we're at now with a policy question has to be, do you want to have at all times a ticking clock when, whether it's, whatever amount of time we want to give it, right? That when a mobile home comes out and comes back in, that there's going to be a clock on there that another one has to go in? Or do you just want it to be, hey, look, if one goes out and it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, then another one connects up, do you want to allow it to connect up there? Because we can work through everything from Mr. Restivo to get this one in, but the bigger policy question is, do you want that parcel to have that kind of clock on it at all times? If you don't want the clock on there, you go to manufactured home. If you want to keep the clock on, you would have conventional residential. That's your policy question. I can work on the other stuff and get you
Well,
in.
let's, we've been on this for a little while. I don't think we're going to,
No, but to
Get through
answer
anything
your
else, but-
question on kicking the can, they've been kicking it for 20 years and it's in your lap.
That's what I'm saying,
Let's get it answered.
well, it sounds like let's approve this here
Yeah.
tonight and then work on the ordinance and then we'll get it.
Approve or deny, whatever, because again,
Whichever, but-
whichever way I'm just saying.
yeah.
But right now, what's on the floor is an approve.
All right. Well, let's take this to a vote. So again, as you know, this would be for an approval, and I think I think I can say there's either way, you're receiving a directive from us tonight to work on that ordinance.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking out of turn to say that. Okay.
And if it goes, just so you know, if it does go over the 90, I'm going to go ahead and
Okay.
exercise authority to keep moving forward.
Yeah, but on this particular item, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
With Councilman Brantley voting no, the motion carries. We'll move on to item 8C. Conduct a public hearing concerning a request to amend the official zoning map from conventional residential CR zoning district to general commercial zoning district for approximately plus or minus 0.45 acres, being the southern 150 foot of property located at 2308 East FM 517, legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin, Sir lots 1, 2, 3, 11, and 12, Block 1, Weeks addition to Dickinson, and ADJW part of Block 1, and for the approximately plus or minus 0.26 acre property located at 2317 44th Street, legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin, Sir Lot 10, and West 1/2 of Block 9, Block 1, Weeks addition to Dickinson. We will begin the public hearing at 8:08 p.m., and we'll start with the staff presentation.
This property is just north of 44th Street. It is a portion of the Ziegler's parking lot and then an adjacent parcel. So the building basically kind of cuts through where the lines change on this one. What's being requested is to change it from conventional residential to general commercial so that it will actually match the existing use. That is what staff has. There's no applicant here today.
Okay, and there's no applicant presentation. There are no public comments, no applicant rebuttal. We'll adjourn the public hearing at 8:09 p.m. Move on to item 8D, consideration and possible action concerning a request to amend the official zoning map from conventional residential zoning district to general commercial zoning district for approximately plus or minus 0.5 acres, property being the southern 150 foot of property located at 2308 East FM 517, legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin, Sir, lots 1, 2, 3, 11, and 12, Block 1, Weeks addition to Dickinson, and adjacent western part of Block 1, and for approximately plus or minus 0.26 acre property located at 2317 44th Street, legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin, Sir, Lot 10, and west half of Lot 19, Block 1, Weeks addition to Dickinson.
Move to approve.
There's a motion approved by Councilman Simpson, second by Councilman Townsend. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 9A. Thank you, Vaughn. Is this one yours as well? Okay. Consideration and possible action concerning a request for McGregor's replat, Marker Oaks Ranch Section 1 final plat, being approximately plus or minus 7.09 acres of the property located at 302 Avenue J and legally described as part of Abstract 1, M. Austin, Sir, south part of lots 2, 3, 4, and closed road 2-0 McGregor sub. Is there a motion to approve?
Would to approve?
Motion to approve by Councilman Brantley. A
Second.
by Councilwoman Simpson. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have some comments on item 9C, and I figured that one would be pretty quick. So I'm going to move 9C up and do it before 9B. And we'll go ahead and take care of this one. So item 9C, Consideration and possible action to approve the ratification to the DMD nominations for Amy Skicky and John Ovale.
You want comments first, or
Now we need a motion on the.
I
on
make
the
a
floor.
motion to table this, send it back to the DMD board. My understanding is that when this was put up last month, there was only the two people on the board wanted to reapply plus one more. At last week's meeting or Thursday's meeting, there were more names submitted. Some of them had to do, some were sent to the Human Resource Division. One was sent to some were sent to the city secretary's office, and then one person's wasn't even given to them. So I say, turn this down, send it
Point of
all the way
order.
back to the board, let them re-vote on it and bring it back to us. in
There's
August.
bone of order. Yes.
Point of order, you can't debate a motion to table.
That's correct. The motion to
No, I
table is just a motion
explained
to
my
table.
motion
Yeah,
to- To turn it down.
we can't do that. You have to just motion to table, but there's a motion to table. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? No.
No.
Motion fails. Is there a motion to approve the nominations? The motion approved by Councilman Brantley. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Simpson. Any discussion? And we actually, before we do that, we have two public comments on this particular item. We'll start with Mr. Lewis Decker. If you please come up and give your name and your address.
Lewis Decker, 5520 Tanglebriar, Dickinson. When all this came up, the date that I turned my paperwork in was June 23rd. And it's rather different when we had an agreed method of doing this, and that doesn't seem that it was done. And I wasn't here for that last Thursday. I had been for previous ones, and I've been interested in this for a number of days, weeks, and that's why I put mine in. But we do get a lot of people on the that's listening in, and that's one good thing that I think the council would like to hear. Otherwise, I'm still interested. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next we have Nita Clements.
My name is Nita Smathers Clements, and I live at 514 Sherwood Forest Drive in Dickinson. I know that I'm not being supported to remain on the Management District Board. I've been on it for the last couple of years. What I don't know is why. My understanding is that I was appointed to the board because they were told by their auditor that they needed someone with a financial background. I am a CPA with 40 years of experience in general accounting, financial reporting, accounts receivable and payable, tax, audit, real estate accounting, and payroll. I have worked for Arthur Young and Company, Enron, UTMB, Anaco, CBRE, and MD Anderson. Neither Ms. Skicky, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I apologize if it's not right, nor Mr. Ovale, who are going to be nominated tonight, neither one of them have the financial background that compares to mine. I can only conclude that a certain council member is upset because I ran against him for city council. He thought he would run unopposed. Maybe it had to do with my objection to buying the sign for Penny's Beer Garden, which will be part of their permanent property owned by them. Other than that, I have pretty much gone along with whatever the board wanted to do. If not any of the above, I would have to conclude that it's because I am beginning to ask questions regarding where the taxpayers' money is being spent. It has been insinuated that I have had something to do with city employees being harassed and or cursed. I have had nothing to do with that, nor do I know who is doing it. It has been insinuated that I have been involved in filing so many public information requests that city employees cannot do their jobs. I have not filed any PIR, nor have I worked with anyone who has. It also has been insinuated that in some way I have slowed down the business of the Management District Board. I have had opinions that oppose certain plans, but is the board supposed to be made up of people who walk in lockstep and offer no differing opinions? I have been accused of not being educated about city matters. I suppose the problem is I am getting educated about city matters, and I will continue to do so. The city manager has accused me of being a part of a citizens audit committee. There is no such thing. He made it up. I simply asked a question of a coworker who happens to be a vendor of the city. If there is such a committee, is that so bad? I asked, why is the city manager getting into the board's business? I have never seen that before.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions or comments on this item?
Mayor, I do want to take a point of
Councilor
personal privilege. Thank you. I'm going to abstain from voting because this is a conflict of interest for me, but I do want to educate on the process. There's been a comment about the process. The process is laid out in state law. The management district selects a board member, and then city council votes them up or down. There have been people who have come to me, who have rung my phone, who have talked to staff, who have talked to other elected officials, and they say, I want to be on the management district, and then are upset that they don't get on the management district. That's not the process. There's a vote, and the names before city council were voted on. I know it's hard because there are only 5 seats on the management district. And for the record, there weren't 2 applications, there were at least 8. There's usually somewhere between 8 to 20 applications for 2 or 3 spots each time a position comes up. Somebody's going to be mad.
I was going to bring up one comment. I think the last comment made in regard to why is a city manager involved in the board's business is indicative of why we're here today, because I'm also the executive director of the board. So whenever you have a board member who is sitting there wondering why the hired staff for that board is working with the board, tells you the disconnect going on.
Well, I'd also like to add, there was a comment made, and just for the record, those you can't see, everyone has left after they've spoken their piece, of course, but not to listen to what anybody else has to say. That speaks for itself. But there was never a comment made about how the auditor said we needed someone with financial background on the DMD. I'm the only person that was on city council up here at the time. That was never said. I voted for Ms. Clemens to be on the DMD. Enthusiastic. I thought her resume was impressive. And we don't pick who they appoint. So and these 2 nominees are good as well. And I do apologize to Councilman Decker for the issue with the application not coming in. However, I will note Johnny did get that because we all get those applications. So, I mean, it was received. It wasn't like it didn't go through at all.
Yeah.
And there are, and again, there's some of the stuff being said, there was only X amount of applications. There were numerous applications from what I understand, and they were in the packet at the meeting. So this is not a unique issue here. Additionally, I'll add that, I understand you couldn't make the meeting, but the other people did. You could reach out to the members. I mean, there's ways to talk to the people on the DMD and talk about the application. So beyond this, we've had these applications up since May. They've been going on. The board is split, and we need to get this done. We're into budget. They need to get their business done, and we need to get this approved tonight. There will be other positions on there in the future, and the applications stay there, and it'll get considered. So,
yeah, I'd also like to point out, we've been talking about applications since January, so it wasn't a last minute thing. I started talking in January about positions 1, 2, and 3 expiring in June of 2023. So this is not new.
From my understanding, because I made the point, there was 3 names given at the meeting, not the special call meeting, but the meeting before. There was 4. One of them was the doctor. He was approved. But the other 2 were the 2 that were on the board and Mr. O'Valley. That was the only 3 that, and they even brought that up in the meeting. The other names didn't show up to the special meeting last Thursday night.
No, in their packet, they had like 8 applications. But those are
That's
just the
not-
ones that they
That's
said.
not what was said at the first meeting when nothing got passed.
Well, I know that's not correct because they had
I
the
was at
extra
the meeting
applications
and
in there.
I heard them say that was the only 3 that came up.
Yeah.
So
So,
I'm not gonna argue the point, but let's
well, just first, all I do want to say is that I want to apologize profusely to Councilman, who's been my councilman, Decker, in all of this, because we did fail to put the app. I want to be very clear: the city staff, myself, we failed to get that into the packet for consideration. The second point is there is a mechanism to do this. That I'm sorry, were you jumping in? I just want to I just wanted to say on my part of it is there is a mechanism that sits with the management district. Obviously the management district is the one that manages who gets nominated. The opportunity does sit before the 3 members, the majority of the board that move 2 members forward, that if they feel that they want to reconsider for Mr. Decker, they have it in the statute to actually say, hey, this person, to actually recommend to the council to switch out people if they so choose. And because that's really, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the management district to choose nominees anyway. So if they want to change out one of the 2 that's here tonight, that if y'all do approve tonight, this can come back to DMD at a later time to for them to switch out members if they talk with Mr. Decker and feel that he'd be a better fit for the board. So just wanted to throw it out there. That's available to the DMD to fix.
So that's in the Dickinson Management District's
Statute.
bylaws?
Correct.
The
That's the
statutes?
legal
That's a
statute.
state statute.
It's
Yes.
a state statute, or is it in the Dickinson Management District's?
State statute.
State statute.
Yeah,
Okay.
Councilman Brantley, he had a.
Yeah, I guess I have 2 comments that I want to make. I did speak with the city manager. I spoke with Mr. Decker yesterday afternoon. As council members, we don't have any say on the reappointment or appointment of members of the management district. I don't have a dog in the hunt of who was, reappointed or nominated. I will say that my biggest concern was that, and although it's a little different with the management district, we did pass a application process for boards and commissions last June. So, and again, admittedly, it's a little different with the management district. However, I did have an opportunity to speak with Ms. Skicky and Mr. O'Valley. I think they're perfectly qualified for the management district. There is an additional mechanism. I think that Mr. Decker, through his years and years and years of service to the city, has proved his value. There is, you can have anywhere from 5 to 15 members on the management district board. And so I would recommend to the board that they consider possibly adding Mr. Decker as a 6th member to the management district board. So that would be my recommendation. So.
I also wanted,
Their comments.
yeah, I wanted to add, so I also spoke to Mr. Decker and I got kind of the same feel for it. There seemed to be 2 issues with the Dickinson Management District recently. So I read through the organizational bylaws. You're saying that, because I just didn't find it in there, that later on you can elect to, go back and look at applications that have been submitted and add someone later if you decide to do so. Is that correct? And that's a state law, so it's not in the organizational
No, that's
bylaws?
actually the state statute says that that all nominations have to originate from the board. So if they want to do 5 to 15, any number, it's been traditionally 5, but that nomination has to come from the board itself.
Okay. And not just during the terms, but at any point
At
during
any,
the year.
and so in part 2 of that is just as much as they put up nomination and then the council has to approve, vice versa. The board also has the ability to ask the council to remove and appoint somebody else as well within the statute.
Understood. And that's kind of where my line of questioning was going. There seemed to be some miscommunications going on, and you acknowledged some of the miscommunication. So I just wanted to, verify that.
Sure.
That's where the core of my concern was.
Sure.
Councilman Simpson.
I do want to point out for the record, while certain applicants' applications may not have gotten in, when we had discussions about it, the point was made that we really don't need the applications to vote. We can pick someone on the management district to bring them on. There were just certain people that were not comfortable doing it without having an application in hand for certain people. That being said, I'll leave the expanding the board to a conversation for another day. But the main reason, it was known Councilman Decker wanted to go on the management district. That was not a secret. Yeah, we may have gotten the application June 23rd, but again, these are conversations I've been having since January. If there is somebody who's not in front of you, either they didn't get the votes or somebody did not nominate them. Those are the only 2 reasons they're not in front of you.
All right. Are there any other comments? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Amy Skiki and John Ovalle to the Dickens Management District, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
With abstention.
With Councilman Townsend voting no and Councilman Simpson not voting, motion carries. All right, we'll move on. We're going back up, actually, to item 9B, an ordinance of the City of Dickinson, Texas, setting the date for regular meetings of the City Council required under the City of Dickinson Charter, Section 3.08A, providing for repeal, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. And this should say approved, and there should have been a second reading. It doesn't say that on there, but
Yeah, it should be in the
so
second.
if somebody
reading.
would, in your motion to approve or whatever, please say
Second.
approve in 2.
Approve in 2 readings.
All right, there's a motion by Councilman Simpson to approve in 2 readings, and a second by Councilman Linton. Yes? Sorry, okay. Some discussion. I kind of want to lead off, because we talked about this some last time, and there were some things said, and I just kind of want to address some of those before we sit down to do this. I actually wrote my thoughts down a little bit here. I don't do that too much. A couple things. I think, I know Councilman Townsend raised an issue about there's some people in certain jobs with shift work and things like that. I'd like to reiterate a couple things. I think number one, there's 2 things we're doing here, right? It's moving the time to 6 o'clock, and it'd be having 1 regular meeting in a month. I'm going to get more into that in a minute. But first off, pretty much any job that I know of, if you're, if you got a halfway decent boss and you need to get out an hour or 2 early once a month, and you know when it is, most of them are going to work with you on that and find a way. So I don't think we're excluding like giant swaths of the population from seeking office by tweaking the time. What I do think it does, and my major kind of reason that I'm a little passionate about doing this one is I think, we talk a lot, and there's been some, I would say, politicized accusations from some in the community about employee satisfaction and things like that and retention. We have a really tangible way to make the employees' lives easier, more efficient. It doesn't cost us any money, probably costs us less money. And it's to just have 1 regularly scheduled meeting a month. And I'm going to note, like the charter says, that's what the charter says. There's supposed to be 1 meeting a month. We have added an additional meeting. When we do this, activity stops in some departments of the city when there's a council day and the lead up to a council day. Everything becomes about that day, getting the agendas together, getting everything there, getting packets made for people, getting everything together, getting the presentation put together. And I'm telling you, that takes up a lot of time that employees are doing. And we have some employees that stay, and I'm looking at you, Anna, that stay way too late up here on Fridays and other times that are busting their butt to do these things. I think we have a tangible way to do that. I know we've had employees in the past that have had to fill in for Anna or before Anna. We were up here to the point where they were paying babysitters to watch their kids on these nights. paying out of their own pocket. We're not reimbursing you for that. I mean, I think it's a way to make things much easier. And I think when the staff is telling you these things, listen to them and help them out. I think, like we mentioned last time, hey, well, we got to do work. The fact of the matter is there's going to be months where we still have 2 meetings, and all we're going to do is do those as needed and not have the presumption be that there's 2 meetings. Business is going to get done. It's going to retain flexibility. I think we're being consistent with the charter. So I think we have a good opportunity here to help our employees to do this, to get, to make everybody's life easier. Nobody says in life, let's have more meetings. Let's meet more often. That's what we need to do. I think we're at a point with some state law changes that we referred to tonight and other nights, to where even changes we're doing internally with moving to a more of a UDC code, that if you look at this agenda, let's look at this for a minute. I think some of these items probably wouldn't even been on this agenda. With some of the changes, the UDC would have been cut drastically down. The consent agenda is almost non-existent on this meeting. We had items we didn't do anything. So in some cases, we can easily, without adding a lot of time, add these agendas together, have produced further minutes, further transcription for staff, further things, free up burden. I think we can do a lot and still meet the flexibility that we have. So one other thing I'll add, I actually think rather than make this more difficult for people that work, it makes it easier, because all of us up here, some of us have kids at home, some of us don't, but we've had those in our lives before. It's a sacrifice that you make to come up here. It's time you give away from your loved ones, from your family. And I think anything we can do to just make that a little more attractive, it makes things a little bit easier for anybody's perspective. I mean, it's not changing my life one way or the other, or anybody's life. I don't want to sound dramatic, but the main one for me, it's the employee thing that I think we need to listen to this and kind of respond to their needs and try to do this. And that's why I think it's important. I think that's why Theo had, like I said last time, I kind of been in my ear for a while on this one. And I, finally was like, fine, put on the agenda, I guess. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about it. So,
Mayor,
Councilman Simpson.
Yeah, I also wanted to reiterate. We mentioned it during zoning, but I recall saying it at the last meeting when we voted on this first. Between the UDC and the so-called Death Star bill, we're not going to have a whole lot to vote on come September 1 anyway. And it's not mandating us to one meeting. This is just keeping us in line with what the charter says versus having to meet twice.
And if I may, one of your comments,
Yeah.
you're an hourly employee and you work 10s and stuff like that, they don't let you leave early because you're manning the job. So you have to take vacation or something like that. So it ain't like you just get up and walk off the job and say, hey, I got a council meeting tonight, boss. I got elected. I'm going home early.
These
Don't
also
work that way.
these aren't entitled positions either.
I understand that.
So if you want to do it, that's a sacrifice you got
I
to
understand
evaluate for
that.
yourself. And we
But
can't.
you make it sound like anybody can just get up off the job and
Well-
walk off and go do it. You can't do that. This council has always met 2 times a month, and they met at 7:00, and that's what the people have expected out of us, and that's why I'll be voting the way I do.
All right,
And
Councilman Linton.
yeah, so I just wanted to mention the argument that's for the one meeting a month. And not only does it align with the charter, but which I unfortunately had to read again. But anyway, the argument for minimizing the impact to city employees is the one that I tend to gravitate more towards, or I'm applying more weight to that. The only concerns that I have about it are going from 2 3-hour meetings on average to 1 6-hour meeting on average per month. And like you said, we do have the option of having a second meeting just in case the agenda gets so large, because, regardless of what happens on September 1st, we still have that option to have a second meeting. But that is really my only concern.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather not be here till 2 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we ended up having 6-hour meetings, we'd obviously revisit it. But I think if you think about some of the boilerplate we do at the start of the meeting that you don't have anymore and you condense it, I don't see us.
I mean, it sounds like fun to spend 6 hours with
you
you guys,
always.
and gals, but
Always.
I'd like to try to avoid it.
Always. Any other comments?
Yep.
Council Brantley.
The first thing that I would say is kind of dovetailing into your comment. However, I would say that when I ran for election, I agreed to 2 meetings a month. That's what I committed to the folks that elected me. There has been, whether it's, I'm not going to use that word. There is some concern, and it's been obvious concern that there's citizens that are concerned about transparency. There's citizens that are concerned about, what we do, how we do it. I don't think that by cutting a meeting is the answer to that. I think that, every municipality surrounding us meets at least twice a month. It's not an inconvenience for me. I know that I understand the argument with our city employees. I think that there are other solutions to that. I think that if we expect our employees to work an 8-hour day, there's always ways that we can come up around and give them comprehensive time to, so if they have to work until 8 o'clock at night on a meeting like you do, thank you very much. Why does she have to be here before noon? Right. She can, Anna's a hell of a professional and she can get her job done. There's lots of ways to skin a cat, as they say. Right. But at the last meeting, I brought up the point that we already have it planned to meet twice a month through September. To Councilman Simpson's point, if the Death Star legislation is going to have that kind of effect on us, then let's talk about it in September. Let's have a robust conversation. I'm not sure. I don't understand the urgency for making this change right now when we're going into the budget conversation. We've already talked about meeting twice a month, reviewing the budget and the work that needs to be done. That's A. B, we have a tremendous amount of things coming down the pipe that will be replacing some of the things that are going to be replaced by the UDC. We have a ton of growth going on. There's a lot of things that are coming up that we could maybe better use our time in meetings in. But at the very least, I still don't believe that this conversation or this decision needs to be made July 11th. I think we can get through the budget season, meet as we need to meet, as we've traditionally met, give us an opportunity to talk to folks, see what folks that vote for us think. I didn't know anything about this until the Friday before the last meeting. So, I stand by the fact I don't think we need to make this decision today.
All right, let's take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No. With Councilman Brantley and Townsend voting no, the motion carries. All right, we'll move on to item 10, executive session. Item 10A, Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney. Discussion with attorney regarding contemplated / pending litigation and regarding matters discussed by attorney-client privilege. Item 10B, Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. Deliberations regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Item 10C, Texas Government Code, Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. 1, discuss commercial or financial information received from a business prospect seeking to locate, stay, or expand in or near the city of Dickinson. Or 2, discuss the offer of a financial or other incentives to a business prospect locating, staying, or expanding in or near the city of Dickinson. We will adjourn into executive session at 8:39 p.m.
so
right over
fast
to
it's
the
unbelievable.
trash.
And then those cans take a good beating, but
And they're not so sturdy sometimes.
they pitch them down. Stress points. They hold it pretty good. Years, you probably never thought you. Be there, Joe.
I remember going in when I was 20 years old. Yeah, I remember the answer was telling me, you need to stay here, you're not going nowhere, you need to retirement, you have to retirement. When you're 20 years old, you don't think that, you just have rubbish. Talking about, you know. But the years you start to realize, years you start to realize, like, it's beneficial for the retirement. I did everything with the water department. I started that, then I was a supervisor for the customer service area. I helped with billing, I helped with some accounts payable stuff here and there. I did stuff with the audit, I did the budget, stuff with the administrative one budget in there. I did trash coordinator, and of course, administrative secretary, working with board members, organizing, designing, everything. And then I was kind of like an assistant to, like, when Keith would work with Keith, work with Dale Hartwick, work with, you know, all the departments. So, kind of like here, like, kind of just work with everything. And then I was the going over the engineers, and then I did all the bid processes. I think the same thing that I do here now is very similar, a little different.
We got this.
Yeah. I mean, I used to have, whenever I first started over there, we had our meetings here. So when I first started, doing the meetings with, our board of directors, our meetings were here. Until we built our Falco office, which is on Beach Road, then meetings started going over there. But I used to work with this company, but it was different. Whenever, it was the same thing, same machine building and everything, but there were little things that changed and things worked different. And it was like another thing, I don't know if that thing without fear, I think that big thing without fear. We used to mess with it out here. And I guess they changed it where they kind of put them together or whatever they did. So,
Probably best.
yeah, but before it was just one thing, you only had to do one.
Yeah,
You know?
because now you live stream stuff.
Yeah.
The older party before live stream, Facebook, YouTube, all of this, one system, and now you put a different system.
Right. And even when I did the meetings at the Falco office, we would do it, we would go, we wouldn't go live, we would just have our Zoom.
Yeah.
And I did the whole Zoom presentation.
I'm still contracted.
Mhm.
He's good. He knows.
I knows his stuff.
And he was,
It was a blessing to come back over there because we needed him. And
well, you had
He
the
knows.
one side, but then he was with the city.
Mhm.
That was a little bit too much. That's too much. To put ahead. But no, he's,
A lot of people say this stuff like this. Why is this life with no people present? Are they in the back room and they do this, has to do it all? Can they take their extension? Can I can put one of these executive session things on here, can I?
You see it's on the screen right now. You can see what's on the screen.
Yeah, like, you can't even see this kind of everything. I think that's why you're saying that.
You can see exactly. You can. You can log into Canva from here and the second screen. That's not easy.
That's if they would.
Mark Anthony, he got out of high school here, he worked, he said, for water.
So he did?
I worked with this other group. I didn't know one. So we got annexed to 91. The election was held in numbers. There were 10, I think at 4. The next year, I had 3. I got the most votes.
You know, the day they decided not to go, you had the live stream issue, the echo sound, remember this? It was like 2 months ago, and I think it was doing, yeah, an echo sound on the system, and I was about to even that happen, and they say, didn't have, just want to make sure that everything is.
I got good bell peppers on the jalapenos and some banana peppers. But I didn't think about them when you got them in the truck.
Bring some up to us. Anytime you have anything you want to give us, bring it to me. Mr. Missioner used to bring me oranges, or what was it, grapefruits? He should bring me grapefruits, he should bring
Let me
okra.
out the front door and I'll go get that bag and you can give it to her.
Yeah.
And you can take some yourself.
Yeah.
Jalapenos, yeah. Jalapenos. Marilyn puts it, these plastic clothes. And she doesn't use any hot water, she used to. And you get the regular fruit, but you wash those, but you cut them in half, get rid of the seeds and the membrane. And then I eat it hot. And you just, a good place.
Yeah.
You let me out the front door, I'll
Yeah,
bring
thank
you.
you. Who do you want me to get some to?
Jenna,
Jenna.
you, that may help your allergy.
Maybe.
I gotta go somewhere.
We go. You said you can get some, and then I don't get the thing away.
Yeah. I'll eat the peppers, but I'm not gonna, I don't wanna open it, you know? Um,
Come, let's go meet.
All right, I will, I'll eat the peppers, but I'm not gonna, I don't wanna open it, you know?
Let's go meet.
Um,
Come, let's go meet. catch my daughter and try to call them video, but so busy with what is that line. Yeah. Yeah, they're here for 2 days, so. We went to Freedom Over Texas on the 4th of July. It was a fun event. We had Chris Young sing over and a person called Viola. I never heard about her before. She sounds pretty much.
Who is it?
Chris Young and Viola.
Chris Young.
Chris, yeah.
Chris Young.
Yeah. He's a country music. He's very famous,
Yeah.
obviously. And Viola.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. You see? This was Sophia. We have a NASA over there. This is NASA guys who is sitting over there and making events for kids.
I always say we do stuff like that more often, it's like go outdoors and do things, you know, like sometimes when we used to do stuff like now kids, they really want us to be on this.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid electronics as much as possible.
Yeah. Cause then they get so into just, you know.
I don't think I don't want to say I'm anti-social media, but at the same time, I'll make sure that doesn't happen on every age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phone, tablets, iPads, all this kind of stuff. I would rather for them to invest on playing and have activities in, because my wife goes to the library all the time and we get all this kind of activities, and if she enjoying it.
Yeah, and it's fun, like, you can go outside riding your bike, and, yeah, you know, just, or show them how to skate, just skate down the, street, and drive.
Yeah, like,
Most kids nowadays just don't have that.
yeah, just like that iPhone games and all this kind of stuff.
And that's what I wanna do, just wanna play.
Yeah, that's what we see.
Mhm.
So it's really depends on what we see within the plans, within school and all that kind of stuff.
right, we will reconvene from executive session at 10:31 PM. And we will move on to item 11, action items from executive session. Item 11A, consideration and possible action concerning matters discussed in executive session. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the Dickinson Economic Development Corporation to expend funds for the purchase of real property as discussed in executive session.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Simpson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? With Councilman Townsend voting no, and Councilman Brantley has recused himself from this vote. With that, we'll move, and motion carries. We'll move on to item 12, adjournment.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Townsend, second by Councilman Simpson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 10:32 PM.